97.3 ESPN each week.
South Jersey's play-by-play home for the Eagles,
Touchdown!
Sixers, and Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Hump Day Wednesday edition of Game Night here on 97.3 ESPN. The Sixers have now won 13 of their last 16, and not to be outdone, the Flyers have won 5 of their last 6. You can listen to the Flyers hockey tonight on 97.3 ESPN, and because of that, Kevin Durso will make his first appearance of the 2023 calendar year. He will join us coming up at 6:40, because I got to talk to Durso about this. You know, Mike Gill and I were having this conversation off the air earlier today, and I immediately thought I have to reach out to Kevin Durso. And the question was, and I don't know if I have the answer at all. The question is this a good thing that they are winning right now? You know, this team is supposed to be in transition. This is a team that is supposed to, want to get a good pick in the draft. You know, they don't have enough talent on this roster. So you need more talent. And as a result, going into the draft, at least for hockey-wise, is like playing roulette. You know, this is not like the NBA where you draft the guy and he could potentially start for you immediately the next year. Hockey is way different. Hockey is a lot like baseball, where in baseball you draft a guy and you might not see him for 3 years, right? How many times you hear about a guy get drafted and you never hear about him again for 3-4 years? Then all of a sudden it's fill in the blank prospect is in spring training, trying for a roster spot. Like, oh yeah, that guy was drafted like 4 years ago or 3 years ago or whatever it is. So hockey's a little similar. There's a lot of moving parts that go to it. So, even getting the draft pick is not a guarantee. So we got a lot to figure out with the Flyers. Plus, it's a Weinberg Wednesday. Dave Weinberg will join us coming up in about 10 minutes from now, because the Eagles are on the bye week. I want to get Dave's perspective on, he covered the Eagles for over 26 years. He was on the Eagles beat. He was in locker rooms. I want to get Dave's perspective on what a bye week is like at the NovaCare Center for all of you guys out there. Also, you could join the conversation at 609-403-0973 is the text board. You can also DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. And because the Eagles are on a bye week, one of the topics this week is about the Eagles coaches moving forward. And, we still, according to Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, that Sean Payton's going to potentially interview with the Cardinals as well. It's interesting to see how people are reacting to these head coach openings. I think part of the problem is, and this is the conversation we were having on both the Sports Bash and Game Night yesterday here on 97.3 ESPN, none of these jobs are particularly very appealing. Like in the past, when jobs have opened up, those jobs are usually jobs that have some sort of redeeming quality. Like when Doug Peterson got the Jags job in Jacksonville, that roster had talent. Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence, but they also had salary cap room to upgrade the offensive line And they had draft picks to add to the defensive side of the ball. When Kevin O'Connell was hired by the Vikings last offseason, they had Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen. They had some draft capital they could work with. They had the ability to make something really good there. And you look at a lot of the teams that had first-year coaches, Brian Daboll with the Giants, he's in the playoffs. What was the Giants' redeeming quality? Well, it can't get worse, right? Daboll had to elevate a franchise, and frankly, he couldn't be worse than the last two head coaches, even if he tried. It was things like that where there was something about the job that was appealing, or for example, with the Giants, Joe Shane was hired from the Bills to there. So he goes out there and he's working with a guy he's familiar with. The head coach openings this offseason, I don't think are very appealing. I think most of these jobs are sketchy, to be honest, because each situation has a huge question mark for me over the job. For example, when I look at the Panthers gig, I think the Panthers have a solid roster, but I think it definitely needs some upgrades, especially on the offensive line and, a little bit in the defensive secondary, in my opinion. No offense to JC Horn, but he can't do everything by himself. Him and the guys, Burns and others out there, they have talent, but they need more to me. And I think the problem with the Panthers is that you have an owner who went big game hunting and got Matt Rule, and it didn't work out for a plethora of reasons. And he gave him this massive contract. So if you are a head coach, you want to maybe know, well, why didn't it work out with Matt Rule? Was it Rule? Was it something else? Was it his relationship with the GM? You're going to need some more information. And am I stuck with Sam Darnold? Can I get another quarterback? If Derek Carr wants to come to Carolina, can we get him instead of Sam Darnold? What is PJ Walker's role with this team moving forward? What are we doing with the running back position now that there's no more Christian McCaffrey? I think there's a lot of questions with the Panthers. I think part of that question is, how is that? Who was culpable? Because it can't be all Matt Rule. It's never just one guy why things fall apart with an organization. The Denver Broncos, there's a huge question about how much of what we saw with Nathaniel Hackett destroyed this team. Because they fired a bunch of other random people too. Like they fired a special teams coordinator in Denver, right? And it's like, well, how is the special teams coordinator responsible for the offense being horrible for most of the year? Now, Russell Wilson played better those final two games. So if you get that Russell Wilson, are we good with that? Or does somebody want a younger quarterback and not a older, set in his ways quarterback? You go to Arizona, the reports are that they want to hire a GM before the head coach. So if you're a guy interviewing for that job, do you only interview for the job if you know that the GM is going to be a certain type of individual? Texans, nobody should want that job as a dumpster fire. And the Colts, again, who's responsible? Chris Ballard, he hasn't given that team the best off seasons. He's been a good drafter, but not a great free agency guy. Did he hand Frank Reich a bad roster? So if I'm Shane Steichen and if I am Jonathan Gannon, my question is, do I even want these jobs? Or is having an NFL head coaching job just so valuable that you can't say no? Josh Hennig here on GameNight 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. Coming up next, Dave Weinberg for this week's edition of Weinberg Wednesday. And then Kevin Durso coming up at 6:40. Like the Florida won 5 of the last 6. Should we care? Should we invest in the Flyers? Or is this just a flash in the pan? All that and more. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Wednesday, Hump Day edition on 97.3 ESPN.
It's Sixers basketball tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Wild dash along the baseline. Reverse layup is good. Maxey back in splendid fashion.
The Sixers host the Oklahoma City Thunder tomorrow. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN.
Wait, stop the countdown. It's the final days of the Kia Season of Giving Back sales event. So bring any trade to Matt Blatt Kia and drive home in a brand new Kia, even with 0 down and 0% APR financing for 36 months. Don't see your new Kia on the lot today? That does not mean you can't drive it home tomorrow. With peace of mind, Matt Blatt Kia's exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy. So if you have a job clearing $350 per week at Matt Blatt Kia, you are virtually approved. So why pay more when you can pay 0% with 0 down?
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
Rate qualifications exist with approved credit. $27.78 per thousand financed on in-stock 2023 Sorento Hybrid. Not all will qualify. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer except for licensing, registration, and taxes. Expires 1/31/23. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. And now on Route 37 in Toms River.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Tara, quote, "My doctor wanted me to do saline rinses for my allergies, but I've never been able to successfully use a neti pot. Navage uses suction power, so it's foolproof. There are nights when I'll have particularly bothersome allergies. I'll bust it out, and the results are immediate. It's such a relief. It's become a lifesaver," unquote. She's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
Go to get your game on at the Gallery Bar Booking Games in Ocean Casino Resort this football season. Cheers your favorite drinks while cheering on your favorite team. Get in on the parlay while in the middle of a party. Go for the sports scene and go for the endless screens. Go to the Gallery. Go to Ocean. Go for the win. For more information, visit theoceanac.com. Must be 21 or older to wager or consume alcohol. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
I'll second guest dinners with friends because they can be interrupted by diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or oily stools. It turns out I have EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, which means I'm missing the enzymes needed to digest food. My doctor prescribed Creon, pancrelipase, an oral prescription medication that replaces pancreatic digestive enzymes. Creon treats EPI due to cystic fibrosis, chronic pancreatitis, pancreatectomy, or other conditions.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you're allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon.
Creon is the #1 prescribed EPI treatment. Ask your doctor about Creon for EPI and visit creoninfo.com or call 800-633-9110 to learn more. That's CREONinfo.com.
With GMF financing, qualified buyers excludes Corvette.
It's back! By popular demand, Bennett Chevrolet has brought back GM supplier employee pricing for everyone. That's right. Get to Bennett now. Pick out your new Chevy and you'll pay what our supplier employees pay and not 1 penny more. This is truly amazing because other dealers are still charging MSRP or more. But Bennett isn't like most dealers. We've got GM supplier employee pricing for everyone on your new Chevy. Think about how much you'll save with Bennett when you pay GM supplier employee pricing compared to the other dealers charging MSRP and above. Plus, Plus, with rates as low as 2.99%, you'll save even more. And we're still paying record prices for trades towards any pre-owned in stock. Right now, get a minimum $7,000, even if your trade is total junk. Yes, at least $7,000. Imagine how much we'll pay for a trade that actually runs. And wait till you deal with our non-commissioned sales team. They're paid based on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Let's dive deep into it right now for a Weinberg Wednesday. Of course, we are only on for an hour. Flyers hockey coming up at 7 p.m. tonight on 97.3 ESPN. He covered the Eagles for over 26 years now. He writes for us over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Dave Weinberg is back for another edition of Weinberg Wednesday here on 97.3 ESPN. Dave, welcome back in. How you doing today?
Doing well, Josh. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So, obviously, you're someone who covered the Eagles for a long time. So, why don't I start with this? Talk to the audience about what a bye week is like. Like, give people an idea, because obviously, during the Andy Reid era, they had a couple of those bye weeks in there. So, what is a bye week like? What does it mean? Not just for the team, but maybe also for you covering the team.
Well, from a team standpoint, it's very important. I mean, you get guys who are, banged up or injured a little bit during the course of a season. It gives them a week to rest and recuperate and get ready for their upcoming opponent. And gives the coaches an opportunity to self-scout a little bit, figure out what they're doing wrong, what they're doing right, and maybe carry that over to the first round opponent that they're going to face. Media standpoint, it's kind of odd because usually a coach will give the team the week off, or at least like 3-4 days, just to get away from everything, recharge their batteries. And so from a sports writing standpoint, I usually found myself like covering a high school basketball game or a wrestling match or something during that week. So it's a little break for everybody to kind of, like I said, rest and recharge a little bit.
How concerned or not concerned are you with the Eagles basically having a vanilla offense and defense in the win over the Giants on Sunday?
Not terribly. I think they just wanted to do what they had to do in order to get the win. I think they probably, I don't think they wanted to play Jalen Hurts. They were kind of forced to, because they obviously they had lost the previous 2 games. In an ideal situation, they would have rested him against the Giants. But I think they wanted to just get him out there and not try to limit his risk. Like you said, you saw the real lack of run pass options and the RPOs or what have you. So it's I think it was by design, and I think you'll see the playbook. Well, I don't know now that you hear Nick Sirianni and Jalen talking about how sore he was and how much in pain he was. So I don't know if that's going to go away in a week. So maybe they have to just open up the playbook a little bit more come their divisional round game. But defensively, that seems like they've been kind of doing that all year anyway. I mean, it is concerning, but they've gotten the job done. So I guess there's really not much to. I mean, you don't fix what's not broken, I guess, is the old adage. So I know people are complaining they don't blitz a lot, but they haven't had to. I mean, they lead the league in sacks, right? And or one of the league leaders, and they got 4 guys with 10 sacks each. So they seem to be doing something right.
Yeah, I don't think the blitzing per se specifically is the issue. I think the bigger issue is what you just pointed out, which is what is Jalen's health? Because if Jalen's healthy, this team should make a Super Bowl run. If he's not healthy and that shoulder, now who knows what, oh, I'm sore, I'm in pain. It's like, well, football players are always sore and in pain. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like, it's not like they're giving us like a scale of 1 to 10 up there. So of course I won't do that because, you know how it works, Dave.
It was kind of odd. It was kind of odd though, because teams are usually pretty guarded about that stuff. But I mean, Sirianni made the point made the point that Jalen was in serious discomfort there, and that's something you don't usually hear from a head coach. And I don't know. I don't know if a 70% Jalen Hurts is enough to make this run. And you got to really be concerned about the Lane Johnson situation. Whether he plays or not, I think might be as big a key as to the Eagles' playoff future goes.
It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Obviously, we won't know for sure. But what we do know for sure is both coordinators are interviewing for jobs around the
Yeah.
league.
Yep.
Steichen's got about 3 interviews. It looks like Gannon, depending on which reporting you're listening to, is going to get at least 2 interviews around the league. But I got to ask you, Dave, I mean, some of these jobs are really unappealing. Like, if you really look at them, it's not like when Doug went to Jacksonville last year or Kevin O'Connell went to Minnesota this past offseason. Like, some of these jobs this past offseason were like, hey, I see it. It makes sense. There's a good thing going on there. It feels like some of these jobs that are being interviewed this offseason, they're all either a dumpster fire or almost a dumpster fire.
Well, that seems like that's kind of the situation a lot of times. I mean, why else would teams be getting rid of their head coaches unless they, there's something wrong there? If I'm one of those guys, though, I mean, I can't afford to be that picky. I mean, you don't want to close any door because you never know, how that's gonna have the ripple effect around the league. So, you want to, as many interviews as you can get, you take them and try to impress the search committee as best you can. Whether you get it or not is another matter. But the fact that you're getting that much interest indicates that there's a lot of that people think a lot of your potential as a head coach. So you don't want to give the wrong impression that you're so arrogant or so cocky that you're not going to consider every opportunity.
I said yesterday, so I want to ask your opinion about it today, Dave. In my opinion, if they can afford to lose one, to me, it's Gannon, because I feel like his defense is replicable. It can be done by other people. To me, I want to keep Steichen because I want the same voice in Hurts's ear.
Who do you think designed the offense, though? Was it Sirianni or was it Shane?
I think it's honestly, I think it's a cooperative between 3 guys. I think it's Sirianni, Steichen, and then Brian Johnson.
I got you.
Just my opinion.
Right. I guess it's that's a pretty good way to look at it. I mean, if you're going to afford to lose, one, I guess Gannon would be the guy. Yeah, because I think you're probably right that there's so much talent on that defensive side of the ball that you can probably plug in another coordinator who will either run the same system or put his own stamp on it, and you'll probably be successful. And there's a lot to say about a lot to be said about continuity when it comes to Jalen Hurts too. I don't know that he wants another voice in his ear after so many years of going through offensive coordinators and quarterback coaches and what have you. It's the fact. I think his success is directly tied to the fact that he's had some continuity and stability with the crew that's there now.
The other side of it is, we know that Sirianni didn't explicitly hire Jonathan Gannon. He was a guy that the owner said, I want you to hire this guy. Whereas Steichen was a guy that Sirianni wanted. So I don't know what the relationship is between Gannon and Sirianni, especially after Sirianni, not once, but twice this year, has said in press conferences that the defense didn't make adjustments quick enough in game. And it's like, that's a little weird for a head coach to be saying at a press conference, right?
Yeah, it is. You want to have everybody on the same page. You don't want to throw anybody under the bus, especially your coordinator. And yeah, it's kind of a weird dynamic. It depends on what the head coach's background is. If he's an offensive guy, then he's probably going to be a little closer to his offensive coordinator and not so much to his defensive guy. So it's a tricky situation, but ideally you want to just have a great relationship with all your assistants because you're going to need them during the course of a year, obviously.
Dave Weinberg joining us for a Weinberg Wednesday here on Game Night on the 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle at Dave Weinberg 19. Extra point columns over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Even though the Eagles are not playing this weekend, Dave, we still have football this weekend. So what is the one game you are looking forward to the most?
Well, if I'm an Eagles fan, I'm looking forward to all of them, obviously, in the NFC. Everybody seems to be pointing to the Cowboys-Bucks game as the one that's going to determine who the Eagles face. I think the Giants are going to beat the Vikings. I really do.
Really?
Yeah, I do. The Vikings have not impressed me, really, during the season. I mean, they have all this talent in the world, but they seem to come up so short in big games. And I'm not a believer in Cousins. It seems like he's always ready to make the big mistake in a crucial situation. And the Giants they've been decimated by injuries. They have no wide receivers. They they got injuries up and down. So, but I still think that they might find a way to knock off Minnesota. So the Eagles might be facing the Giants for a third time this year, and it's awfully tough to beat a team 3 times.
Well, the stat they had on ESPN this morning, I have it scanned up for myself here. The Vikings are the first team in NFL history to have 12 plus wins in a regular season and have a negative point differential.
Wow, how about that? Huh? Yeah,
I knew it was a rough year, but I didn't think they were the first one. Like I figured that'd be somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, their offense is dynamic, no question about it, but their defense is kind of suspect. And yeah, they seem to come up really small in like key situations, and that really troubles me. As far as like the AFC goes, I'm really interested in Jacksonville and the Chargers, only because of Doug Peterson. Well, primarily because of Doug Peterson. I just think it's great. I just think it's great that Jacksonville finally has a team to root for and a coach to believe in and a young quarterback. But Justin Herbert, man, when he's on, he's really tough to beat. So I think Jacksonville beat them during the year, though, correct?
That's correct.
LA?
They went to LA and beat them, and now the Chargers have to come to Jacksonville, where apparently, according to Bucky Brooks on his podcast, he was saying that game versus Tennessee was the loudest he had ever seen or heard a Jacksonville game ever.
I would guess so. Although I will say that I happened to actually be there. Well, when Jacksonville played, who the heck did they play? And Tennessee in the AFC Championship game in 1998, was it? 9?
Mark Brunell. Mark Brunell versus
Mark Brunell, Tony Pacelli. Yeah. The only reason I was there was because Doug Coleman, who's from Ocean City, played for Ocean City High School. He was on the Tennessee Titans team, and so I was sent out there to cover that game because I covered the Indianapolis Tennessee game the week before with Keith Elias on the Colts and Doug on the Titans. Funnily enough, though, I didn't get to cover the Super Bowl. I don't know why that happened, but anyway, yeah, I was at Jacksonville. It was pretty loud then, but yeah, just like hearing on TV, I mean, it was deafening, and it's just great because that stadium's usually empty, so it was nice to see people there.
Right. Doug was actually on Chris Long's podcast yesterday.
Really?
And yeah, for those who don't know, Chris Long has a podcast called The Green Light, right? Mm-hmm. And Chris always jokes that nobody wants to come on his podcast. So whenever they get a guest on the podcast, they make it like it's the biggest thing in the world, right?
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so he's like, hey, Doug said he'd come on the podcast, so he record it. And one of the things Doug said on the pod with Chris is that people keep bringing up that he has a young team, but Doug thinks it might be a blessing because these guys just have no clue about the pressure of the NFL, and they're just out there having fun.
Yeah, there could be an advantage to that because, on the one hand, it's that they've never been there before. So people are kind of expecting the playoff experience to come into effect. We know that if they go beyond the first round or whatever, they might get just not used to it. But yeah, there's something to be said for being naive to all this too. I'm sure some of those guys, Trevor Lawrence in particular, they're used to playing in big games in college. So,
right.
They know what it's like to play in front of 100,000 fans for a national title. So I don't think this is going to phase them. But yeah, it's something to be said for being young and kind of wide-eyed a little bit, just taking and being getting caught up in the excitement and stuff. I think Doug might be on the right track there.
Who do you think has a better head of hair? Is it Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert?
It's not me. I know that.
It's not me either. Trust me.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. My 4-year-old grandson was saying, or my wife was saying, "Poppy, you need a haircut," and Graham said, "Poppy, don't get a haircut because you're not gonna have any left." So, but, it's gotta be true. It's gotta be Trevor Lawrence. I think. I mean, his hair is well known since his days at Clemson. So, but yeah, Herbert can give him a run for his money. That's an interesting. That's going to be an interesting debate. Who has the best area?
Well, Doug's
Doug's is pretty good too. So.
Well, that was one of the things Long was making fun of him on the podcast. He was making fun of Doug. He's like, oh, now you're in Florida and like your hair is all nice and your face looks great. He's like, oh, you go to that sunshine in Florida and you clean yourself up, Doug. The other thing is that I was thinking about, it's like Lawrence's hair is like Sunshine, Ronnie Bass for Remember the Titans.
Remember the Titans, yeah.
That's what it reminds me of. Whereas like Justin Herbert's long hair looks like a Hollywood actor auditioning for like a like an apocalyptic world movie where like he hasn't cut his hair in like a year or something.
Right. He's got that California cool vibe going.
Like, oh my goodness, who is that actor? Kurt Russell. That Kurt Russell look he had. Like that's what it reminds me of.
Okay, all right, I got you. I can.
What
see
was
that,
the name of that movie? They were so bad, those movies.
I don't know. Kurt's been in a few. I don't know which one you're.
Well, it was the movies in the 80s where like it was like, you know, the end of the world like scenarios and like it was.
Right.
I'm gonna have to look it up because it's gonna drive me nuts. But I feel like their style of hair is just so different. That's why it's like an interesting question.
Right.
You know.
Well, I had long hair in the 70s, but that's long gone.
I've never attempted to grow long hair, so I couldn't. I have no personal feedback. It's all observation.
Oh, everybody had that back then. I mean, it was, long hair and sideburns. That was the look. That was the style.
I had a lot of people trying to get me to grow long hair, and I was just like, no. Oh, here it is. Escape from New York. He was Snake Plissken.
I don't remember it.
It was a weird movie.
I remember like Tango and Cash. I think that's the only one I remember from Kurt Russell. And Overboard with Goldie Hawn. It was a comedy.
I mean, usually when I think of Kurt Russell, the first thing that comes to my mind is Tombstone. But
yeah. Okay, I got you. Yep. Very good actor. He really is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, the other one was Escape from LA. So you had Escape from New York and Escape from LA. It was like these like, you know, post-apocalypse like scenarios, and his hair was like ridiculously long, but like it looked good. So it's like, hey, good for him, man.
Yeah. Wasn't he a coach in that in the hockey movie too?
Yeah, Miracle.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. He played Herb Brooks in the movie.
All right, that's right. Okay. All right.
His hair had to be a little more tighter for that though.
Yeah, that's true.
Dave, I didn't think we were gonna go down that road, but we did, so whatever. It's all
that's
good.
Okay. No worries.
Before I let you go, if you had to pick, because you know the NFL, they have finalists now for these awards. So I know that you believe Doug Peterson should win the award. I would agree with that.
Yep.
But who should be the other two finalists for the award?
Brian Daboll, definitely. I would have said the Dolphins coach if they hadn't fallen apart. I don't think it's Sirianni. I know I'm going to get in trouble here. Let me think. Yeah, I guess you can throw Nick in there as the third guy.
Well, I was going to say, like, do you give Dan Campbell a vote because even though you get to the postseason?
What am I thinking? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do. I think what he did was nothing short of, and that was extremely impressive. I mean, they did come up short, but I just thought he did a fantastic job. He would be my third guy. I'm sorry, I didn't think of him.
To me, another guy I would throw out there is Kyle Shanahan because he's on his third quarterback and he's going to the playoffs.
Yeah, I've heard him mentioned quite a bit too. Yeah, yep. It seems like it's going to come down to Double or Peterson from what I can gather. I don't know.
Well, because they're the two guys who walked into the most like difficult situations, arguably, and figured out. But like, here's the problem: like, Daboll had another guy from Buffalo, Joe Shane, become the GM, so at least he had an ally in the building, and at least for Doug, he had Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne and some ridiculous amount of cap space to work with. So it's like, both teams were total trash last year, but at least they walked into a situation at the Houston Texans.
True. No, they deserve a lot of credit for changing the culture of that team, though, the organization.
Absolutely.
I mean, they were both dumpster fires, like you said. So not only on the field, but off the field as well. I think they did a tremendous job.
Although I would still take Dan Campbell if I need someone on my back in a bar fight. So.
Oh, no doubt about that. Him and Mike Vrabel, yep. Him and Mike Vrabel are on my team, yep.
Him, Vrabel, Deuce Staley, like all those guys.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I can trust Doug. I just don't know how good of a brawler he is. So.
True. He's a good golfer, but I don't know about that stuff. Yeah.
Well, you just give a golf club. It's like it's like some sweet.
There you go.
Right. This entire segment's gone off the rails. Dave, I always appreciate you jumping on. Another Weinberg Wednesday at Dave Weinberg 19 extra point columns at 97.3 ESPN.com. Good stuff today, Dave. Take care.
Well, thanks, Josh. I appreciate it as always. Now I gotta go get a haircut.
I am Josh Hennig, and I also need a haircut here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. We'll head to the Flyers game next. Flyers are going for another win. They've won 5 of their last 6. I thought this team was supposed to be tanking or something, or what's going on? We'll find out from Kevin Durso next. Flyers hockey tonight at 7 p.m. here on 97.3 ESPN.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tonight on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app with Tim Saunders and Steve Coates calling all the play-by-play action.
Jeremy with a shot. He scores on the backhand.
It's Flyers Capitals tonight. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey on the radio home of the Flyers in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN.
With GMF financing, qualified buyers excludes Corvette.
It's back! By popular demand, Bennett Chevrolet has brought back GM supplier employee pricing for everyone. That's right. Get to Bennett now. Pick out your new Chevy, and you'll pay what our supplier employees pay, and not 1 penny more. This is truly amazing because other dealers are still charging MSRP or more. But Bennett isn't like most dealers. We've got GM supplier employee pricing for everyone on your new Chevy. Think about how much you'll save with Bennett when you pay GM supplier employee pricing compared to the other dealers charging MSRP and above. Plus, with rates as low as 2.99%, you'll save even more. And we're still paying record prices for trades towards any pre-owned in stock. Right now, get a minimum $7,000, even if your trade is total junk. Yes, at least $7,000. Imagine how much we'll pay for a trade that actually runs. And wait till you deal with our non-commissioned sales team. They're paid based on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
I never write reviews, but Navage is so amazing, I had to leave one. Nothing's ever cleared out my sinuses as well. I'm blown away by how Navage works. That's a review from Carrie, and it's one of over 100,000 online testimonials praising Navage. I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I've talked about flushing out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, how Navage's powered suction can help you breathe better, and how your nose is the body's air filter, and Navage will clean it out. But don't take my word for it. What do people like Chad say, who wrote, Navage has helped clear out my nasal passages every single night. My wife says my snoring has gone way down. Snorefest be gone, unquote. Navage is the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million customers to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
When it comes to wings in the Delaware Valley, nobody beats the Piccalilli Inn. Whether it's South Jersey's best wings, tails, or ears, let them know you're sauce champion. All 10 delectable flavors are going head-to-head to battle for number 1. When it's game day, you just gotta head to the Pick. Visit them on Facebook or at Piccalilli.com for their Pick game specials. And be sure to pre-order to guarantee your spot in Sunday's lineup. Nobody beats the Piccalilli Inn. Visit the one, the only, the original Piccalilli Inn, Route 206 in Chemong.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's official. Fast just got a whole lot faster. Xfinity has the fastest internet with up to 6 gig speed. You heard that right. Xfinity just increased internet speeds again. And Xfinity Mobile gives you can't catch me speeds. Plus, get the best price for 2 lines of unlimited, saving you 45% over Verizon. The fastest internet, the fastest mobile service, and major savings? Can't argue with the facts. Learn more, or now through March 21st, get started for $30 a month when you add Xfinity Mobile for 2 full years with no annual contract. Go to Xfinity.com/faster, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. Xfinity Internet required. Compares 2 Xfinity Mobile Unlimited intro lines and 2 Verizon 5G Welcome Unlimited lines. Reduced speeds after 20 gigabytes of usage. After promo, regular internet rates apply. Data thresholds and actual speeds may vary.
I'll second guest dinners with friends because they can be interrupted by diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or oily stools. It turns out I have EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, which means I'm missing the enzymes needed to digest food. My doctor prescribed Creon, pancrelipase, an oral prescription medication that replaces pancreatic digestive enzymes. Creon treats EPI due to cystic fibrosis, chronic pancreatitis, pancreatectomy, or other conditions.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you're allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon.
Creon is the #1 prescribed EPI treatment. Ask your doctor about Creon for EPI and visit creoninfo.com or call 800-633-9110 to learn more. That's CREON info.com.
Kindle Auto Plaza has the area's largest selection of pre-owned vehicles of all makes and models. With over 80 pre-owned vehicles on their huge 100-acre lot. Everything from sporty coupes to SUVs to trucks. Kindle offers the area's best buying experience, easy and hassle-free, with 60 years of customer satisfaction and community service. Discover why Kindle customers are so loyal. Shop for your next pre-owned vehicle at Kindle Auto Plaza, exit 10 of the Parkway on Stone Harbor Boulevard, or at KindleAutoplaza.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night being brought to you by Jenkins & Sons. One call does it all. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, the plumbing guy. Jenkins Technicians have you covered. From new heating and air installation, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, oil service, and more, Jenkins is the one to call at 609-641-6262 and visit them online at jenkinsandsons.com. Well, it's our first conversation on the air with Kevin Durso, our Flyers insider from 97.3 ESPN.com. Because, Kevin, when I have questions of the Flyers, you're the one I text for better or for worse. So, Kevin, Happy New Year. How you doing up at the center?
I'm doing well, Josh. Happy New Year to you as well. Great to be back on.
So, the Flyers have won 5 of the last 6. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Depends on who you ask, probably. I'm sure to the front office it's a good thing because it keeps them employed at the moment. I'm sure to the coaching staff a good thing because of the development, and for the players it's a good thing, I'm sure, because this builds a culture. This builds a culture that can win games. I think early in the year, we saw the team win a lot on the back of Carter Hart and not have as much structure. Now they're winning games. Look at the majority of the wins they've got over the last little bit too. Young goaltender in Sam Ersson in net, and that means that you're playing well in front of him enough to get him the support that he needs to win some games as well. So for a young team, especially with the guys who have been contributing the most during this stretch, that part's a good thing. But to most of the fans out there, I would assume it's not necessarily a good thing as they watch the Flyers slowly kind of climb the standings, not necessarily toward the playoff picture, but leapfrog over teams that are certainly, now falling lower and getting closer to more of the sweepstakes for the top draft pick. It's still, up in the air. There's no guarantees here, just to get the lowest spot standings and automatically assume the top pick. But it does give you the better odds, and I think that people are now, as they watch the team win a few more games here, probably wondering, is it worth it when you look at some of the talent that could be available in the top 5 of the draft, and you may be playing yourself out of one of those spots potentially.
It's a catch-22 because, for part of me is I like turning on a Flyers game and seeing a competitive game, right? But on the flip side, I get that this team is so devoid of talent, especially top-tier talent. So with that being said, how have they won 5 of their last 6? This is supposed to be a team that has had so many injuries, is devoid of so many guys. So, Kevin Durso, how are they doing it?
Well, they're still getting good goaltending, and I think that, hold for his first, his NHL debut, Sam Ersson, who, got pulled in his NHL debut, came back on this most recent road trip they had and won all 3 games, made another start, and, on this last little stretch here, they went on the road kind of unexpectedly. It was a rescheduled game from March to January in Buffalo just now. And Monday night pulls in his first NHL shutout, and he's been impressive and he's been doing the job. But they're getting more goal scoring over the last few games than they have in a long time. And certainly leading the way is Travis Konecny. He's currently on a 9-game point streak that's currently the active leading streak in the league at this point. So no, not even a player like Connor McDavid has a streak like that going at this moment. And he's pretty much been, up until that game on Monday, was scoring a goal in every game too. I mean, his goal scoring streak was up to 6 games itself, and that was snapped, but the point streak continues, and he's been as impressive as any player that's on the team at this point. But you're watching other guys kind of come into their own and come back from maybe either a slow start or maybe some health issues at the start of the season. Joel Farabee's a great example. He's kind of been playing a lot better lately and more noticeable lately. Wade Allison came back from injury recently, and we've seen him score a few goals lately. So you've got guys like that who are starting to chip in more and more. And I think that goes a long way to eventually winning games. And those are the types of guys that are doing it. It's not, it's not like we're sitting here talking about guys who are potentially be traded in a couple months here, like a James Vanderemsdyk, and he's the one leading the way and scoring all the goals here. It's guys who are starting to carve out more of a path for their future on this team beyond this year. You're looking at a guy like, and I go back to Konechny for this, and I may not to repeat myself with him, but his point totals this season are right up there with some of the stars of the league. So he's giving you that kind of production. He may be the only player you have. You want more of that, but he's giving it to you, and he's showing you something that maybe you didn't think you had coming into this season. So those are the positive steps you take, and those are the ways that you start winning games when you have a guy playing with that level of confidence. If it rubs off on other people, that can lead to some successful things.
If it leads to the team being in a better position to win next year, is that what the goal is for this organization, to try to be good enough to be in a position to be better next year? Like, is that what the real goal is right now?
It might be for them, especially when you hear, and I talked about this earlier this year when Chuck Fletcher comes out at the quarter mark, when they're in the middle of a big losing streak and hits you with, we're only 5 points out of a wild card. Like right now, they're 9 points out of a wild card. Like, I can't fathom being a team that wants to just make the playoffs and say that's acceptable. You should have your sights set higher than that. So maybe to them it is. I don't think it should be an acceptable goal at all, because sure, getting into the playoffs is great, but it doesn't mean you're going to contend. It doesn't mean you've got the talent and the skill that these other teams have. And, I think that this team, for wins in 5 of the last 6, I look at the one outlier of that 6 games, the loss to Toronto, and I say, there's a team that's built for the playoffs potentially. Now, I know that Toronto hasn't won a playoff series in going on 20 years now, but, they've got the skill level to compete in a playoff series and put fear into people. And I think that there's a lot of teams out there that exist. One of them, they're playing them tonight. The Washington Capitals still have that. And now that the Capitals have gotten healthier, they're a team that's already been winning a lot to begin with. They're 13-2-2 in their last 17 games. And, they've had Alex Ovechkin all along, obviously, but now back. TJ Oshie was out with injury for a little bit. He's back. Tom Wilson's back. They're getting their guys back, and they can move forward and start to prepare to play the way that they envisioned the whole season to be, knowing that they had guys that were going to be out at the beginning of the year for a while. It's unfortunate they're not fully healthy because John Carlson's out, and he's going to be out for a while, probably until basically the end of the regular season. But they're close enough to full health that now you're going to see a team that they've already beaten the Flyers twice this year, and that was not close to full strength. Now they're much closer, and you may see a team that, like Toronto when they were here on Sunday, comes in and just dismantles this team because they have that much more skill. Now, I kind of thought that Buffalo would give more of a push, and sometimes, look, the Flyers can beat the Capitals tonight too if it turns out the same way that the Buffalo game did, where it just looked like Buffalo was not with it that night for whatever reason, just didn't come out with any energy or any push, and it took them too long to get into the game. They were trailing 3-0 before you knew it. That's a way that you can win a couple games if you kind of catch a team that thinks, this Flyers, they're at the bottom of the standings, maybe can take the night off. The Flyers are out here with John Tortorella on the bench, kind of pushing that emphasis on play with effort, play with some heart, and at least want to be here, and who wants to be here and who's with this process moving forward. That'll help you win a game too. If you're playing like that and the other team's thinking this should be an easy night, maybe it'll be a cakewalk. Turns out it's not, and the Flyers can win a couple games that way too. So I think that especially since this game is the first one of the second half of the schedule, it's a good reminder that now John Tortorella has had half a season with this team, and he has had a chance to kind of see what everybody is and get to know these players better. We're finally seeing consistency with the lineup. We're seeing consistency with the line combinations. There's chemistries being built. that's what all filters into building a winning culture, is when you have guys that you know are going to be part of this for a while and can fall into place, and you don't have to do much in terms of adjusting that. You can just roll with it because you know what to expect from those guys. So all that factors in. And now, the schedule is going to get tougher for them with these couple games against Washington, and there's more on the horizon. We'll see if it sticks. If it doesn't, I wouldn't be surprised, but don't be surprised if it does a little bit, because this team is starting to buy into a lot of things, and I think you're seeing that more and more on a nightly basis.
Talk with the Flyers insider Kevin Durso. Catch all of his coverage over at 973ESPN.com and the 973 ESPN mobile app. Flyers Caps coming up in about 10 minutes here on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget, you can hear the game on our app for free. Kevin, there's a lot of rumors right now about the trade deadline, right? Obviously, this time of year that now we're starting to talk about. Obviously, Provorov came out and said that he wants to be here despite the rumors. Who is a legitimate guy who could be traded? Like maybe a couple guys that you could definitely see them maybe selling at the deadline.
Well, there's still a few pieces that they'll sell at the deadline. James Marimsek's one. Justin Braun's probably another. You still look for the, at this time of year, you look for the expiring contracts and start to kind of figure out who's going to be here, who's not. I know that there's a lot of fascination around some of the other names. They're bigger names, and that's why there's a fascination. That's why the Provorov story generates a lot of buzz and things like that. And certainly when Kevin Hayes was getting benched a couple weeks ago and things like that, there's discussions about would they consider that. Those are things where, most general managers, and granted, we still don't completely know who's going to be the general manager of the team even come March. I mean, there's still a lot up in the air in that department. For now, it's still status quo, but things could change at any point, really. But the closer you get to it, you assume Chuck Fletcher is going to be the guy who's in charge of that. And if it's the case, usually GMs also start at the deadline at least putting some information out there among other GMs about who may be available later, not necessarily in that 48-hour period or the 2 weeks leading into the deadline or whatever that may be. There are a lot of deals that get made around the draft and things like that because there's information that was given at the deadline that starts conversations, and you kind of put those on the back burner at the deadline and hold on to them until you get to the offseason and the draft and things like that. And then someone will bring up, hey, remember that time I mentioned Ivan Provorov? Remember that time I mentioned something about Kevin Hayes? Let's talk about that now, because more teams can plan for those kind of, if a player has more term, if a player has a bigger cap hit, teams can plan for that and make a trade in the offseason way easier than they can midseason. So you're going to have a lot of names that you're going to hear, maybe so offseason talk and trade deadline talk. There's still going to be sellers, and there's always the odd chance that a type of player who's more of a fourth liner and an energy guy, as Zach McEwen, may come up and be moved at the deadline because a team out there says, I wouldn't mind having a player like that. You're not going to get much in return for guys like that. Think of it as the a Derek Brassard type move from last year where you get a low round pick and get something in return. You don't just lose a guy for nothing. But maybe the more fascinating stuff at this point is going to be kind of what names stick around in these discussions as the offseason approaches. Does the Kevin Hayes talk continue? Does Ivan Provorov's name keep coming up? Any other joint list? What about the current goaltending situation that you've got 3 goalies technically on the roster? What do you do about that? What happens with Felix Sandstrom, given way that Sam Harrison's played lately and Carter Hart's played all year? There's been people out there on Twitter who are all of a sudden forgetting about the fact that Carter Hart started the year as well as he did, looking at the last 4 starts from Sam Harrison and saying, put Hart on the bench, he's a backup now. That's just ridiculous talk at this point. You don't just do that. And Carter Hart's still the number 1 goalie this town, and Tortorella said as much today. So those are the conversations that, you kind of have when it comes to trades, and you see where it goes. But I don't think anything major is going to happen outside of Van Riemsdyk. I think that most of what you're going to anticipate is going to come up later, not in the immediate.
Social media being forgetful of the past. Shocking. Absolutely. At Kevin Durso on Twitter, speaking of social media, catch all of his Flyers coverage over at 973ESPN.com, the 973 ESPN mobile app. Kevin, appreciate you joining me from the center. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.
Josh Hennig wrapping up game night here on 97.3 ESPN. Yes, Flyers Capitals next on 97.3 ESPN FM and on our app, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Sixers return to the court tomorrow night here on 97.3 ESPN at 7 o'clock. And don't forget Mike Gill and the Sports Bash. We'll be live at Chickies and Pete's tomorrow here on 97.3 ESPN. Thanks again for Dave Weinberg, Kevin Durso for joining me on the show tonight. Thanks to Jenkins and Sons for sponsoring us each and every night here on 97.3 ESPN. Have a great night, everybody, and I'll catch you tomorrow.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff. Learn more, live better.
Okay, it's the new year, and many of us set a goal to get in better shape. Adding weight training to your workouts can help improve muscle tone and bone density, both of which we lose over time.